And it's like, bullshit, it doesn't count. Like, it does count. You could have left treatment at any point in time. Treatment is not a prison, right? Like, we lock the doors from the outside or from the inside, not the outside. Like, you can leave if you want to. You can totally leave. You can wake up one morning and we've had people do that. And so it's like, no, the 30 days that you get in treatment, like, it absolutely counts, right? Like, it's your running start. You're getting out of a treatment center 30 days clean. Okay, like, that's your running start. And we give you the tools that you need to go out and be successful and to continue to grow in that 30 days. But there is still part of me that, like, just really wants to take some of these people and just go, hey, like, I see the other side. I've been where you're at, and it was really hard to get to where I am now. But now I'm looking back at my journey going, wow, Alex, like, you have come a long way that I didn't ever think that I was going to make it to.
Thanks so much for listening to No Lions Here with me, Big Panda.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to No Lions Here. My name is Big Panda, and I'm a recovering sex addict. Welcome back to the show. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to give a shout out to my sponsor of this episode and of the show, Beginning Again Institute in Boulder, Colorado. Their information will be in the description of this episode. So if you or someone you love is struggling with sex, love, or porn addiction, definitely they're the place for you to go and get the help that you need. They've been a game changer for me in my life and my recovery as well. That's where I started my recovery at, and can't say enough good things about them. You know, and to just be partnered with them is something that I'm really blessed to have. So definitely go check them out. If you're watching on YouTube, go check out, go follow us on Spotify. That's where the whole discography of all the episodes are. And if you are listening on Spotify, go check out our YouTube. Go subscribe there as well. That's where you can see I got all the reels that drop 5 days a week there as well. So definitely go and check all that out and support the show. I really appreciate it. So I was just kind of going back through because I was like, all right, when was the last time I was in here doing a solo episode? And I think it was like the end of June. And so some things have changed since then. I started the new job. You know, I had my coworker Ricky on recently. That was a great episode. If you haven't listened to that episode, definitely go check out that episode. It's episode 80 with Ricky. Great episode. Good guy. So I've been working at the treatment center, and I am in a relationship, you can say. So things are like, and there's things moving around with the podcast as well. So we'll get into all of that. The main thing that I wanted to talk about first was just this. I've been feeling really distant from the podcast recently. So the news with the podcast is, podcast isn't going anywhere. Podcast, I will always record the podcast. I'm always going to be doing the podcast no matter where I'm at in my life. Whether I have one listener, I got lost there. I was going to say that I had 1 or 10,000. I don't know why I didn't want to say that. I don't know. Anyway, whether I'm making money off of this or whether, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm going to be doing the podcast because, one, it's really helped me. 2, it's given me a platform to share the message, and it's also given me a platform to be of service and have other people on the podcast. And it's helping me achieve that goal of spreading the message. And that's what I really want to be doing with my recovery. And so I'm always going to be doing the podcast. So the podcast is going to be moving from this beautiful studio into my mom's basement. And, the plan all along for the podcast was to eventually, have my own place and kind of build the studio out in home so that I had that where I lived. So, last year went back to school and put the house hunt on hold. Not that I was thinking that I was going to get a house or anything like that, but went back to school. Then school ended up, giving me money to pay for the studio. And so it all just kind of made sense at that point in time. Well, now we're kind of in this transitional period of okay, the business partner has moved out of the studio. You guys have kind of heard that whole situation. And the money that was coming in from the sponsorship, it doesn't cover the rent, which is fine. It's okay. And then the money that I was getting from the program that I took my certification through, that money's kind of like I don't have enough to sustain, let's just say, for another year. And so, like, financially, it just doesn't make sense to stay at the studio. And I'm okay with that. Like, I think it's time for me in my life to start thinking about the finances, and because that's something that I definitely have a lot of insecurities around, is like my finances, even though like right now, like I feel okay with it. However, it's like I need to be thinking about the longer game, the goals and what's down the road. And honestly, like it just doesn't make sense financially to stay in the studio. So I'm gonna be moving. So if there's any lapse, I've been pretty consistent with the episodes and putting them out every 2 weeks. And so if there are any lapses, it's just there's going to be this kind of transition period. I don't want to hit any lapses. However, like there may be, I don't know. And it's scary. I'm afraid. I also feel like really lonely with the podcast too. Like, just like, not in the sense of like that no one's listening or no one cares. That's not it at all. It's just this like, okay, like I literally have to move this equipment and figure out the logistics, and like I've got to do that all on my own. And like I wish that like I had somebody like that was invested like I am, that was here helping me with those decisions. Because like I'm gonna be honest, like it seems very overwhelming to move this equipment. Now, not all of the equipment's coming with me, and there's just been some, I don't know, some tough conversations with the business partner, and things kind of, I felt like whenever I told him I was moving, like he kind of like switched up on me a little bit. Like there was different tone about the conversations and how he was approaching it, and it left a really bad taste in my mouth. And so I don't know, I'm feeling really overwhelmed. I'm feeling really overwhelmed with all of this, like having to move this and get it all up and running again. Like, and I would need a decent amount of money to keep the podcast here. And that's not what I'm looking for though. And like I know that, like I'm not like, oh god, it's the money. Like it's not the money. It's just the whole undertaking of like moving this stuff and like getting it set up again. All without like missing a beat too, as far as like the posting schedule goes. So I don't know. It's just I haven't really been motivated to like try to find guests. I haven't even really been motivated to even come in here. Like I gotta release this episode in a couple days, and like I literally waited until not the last minute, and I don't need to like shame myself. Like it's kind of gone like this. Like kind of like the podcast is definitely like ebbed and flowed for me a little bit throughout this whole process and everything. And I don't know. Again, like I want to continue to do the podcast, but I don't know. It's just got some. I don't know. I feel a certain type of way around it all, and kind of sucks a little bit though too. Like I don't know. Like I don't even know like how to describe it, explain it, other than like just feeling like overwhelmed. And like now I know that I've got people that I can like ask to physically come and help me like move stuff. There's just some underlying stuff there with the business partner, and just feeling kind of hurt around all of that. And that, yeah, I feel like I kind of got left high and dry a little bit with it. So I am, kind of looking at this opportunity as like, okay, like this is my chance to like just be on my own with the business and be on my own and not have to rent studio time from anybody. Like just get to just do my own thing. And it's kind of been like that for the last year or so. Cause I mean, after all, like I am the content. Like you can't replace me on this show. Cause like I am the show essentially. Right. And I'm not saying that like an arrogant, cocky way, but I don't know. It's just, even just like thinking about it and talking about it, like and honestly, like I haven't talked about it enough recently. I really haven't. Like The plan was to be out by the beginning of August. And well, we're, 20 something days into August. So then the plan is to like, okay, be out by sometime in September. And I don't know. I'm having a really hard time like envisioning how that's going to go and what that looks like. Like, to be honest, like I have no idea. And so like that's one of the scary parts about this is like the unknown around it. Like, and I'm just really just like carrying this stuff. And again, I haven't been talking about it. Hasn't necessarily been on the forefront. It's been kind of like, all right, that whole like I've got time, just I'll leave it in the back. I don't need to worry about it. I have time. Like well now it's like now we're kind of like where I said I was like gonna okay, this is like when I need to start thinking about moving out. And so yeah, I don't know. It's tough. I keep saying I don't know. And like that is acceptable too, right? Like because I've talked about that before, like having that response or like that answer to a question in life of I don't know, like that's okay. And so I think that there's definitely this, well, I'm supposed to have this figured out. I need to have this all planned out. Adulting going on too, when like the real simple answer right now for me around the podcast is I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I wish I did, and this kind of shows me, I don't know what I need to look at. But again, like, I don't even know where to begin. I don't know. There's just a big old question mark right now. Doesn't feel great. Like, it doesn't feel great at all. Doesn't feel good one bit. No, it doesn't. And, I could sit here and throw out these, like, recovery cliches of, like, it's going to be okay. I'm going to be all right. Like, yeah, I could totally sit here and throw those out there, but it just doesn't. Like, honestly, like I don't know if I believe that right now. I don't know. That sounds maybe a little downer, but I don't know. Again, back to that. Like, I don't know. I do not know. I'll figure it out. I kind of have to figure it out, or else I'm just going to keep, shelling more money at this thing. And right now, that's not really what I want to be doing. So. Yeah. So transitioning from that, the job. So obviously I had Ricky on the last episode, and him and I met him at the treatment center, but I haven't really come on and like just talked on my own around like what's been going at the treatment center and how that's been going. And like, I don't know, that's been going really well, actually. Like really, really well. It's one of those things where like I can't believe that like this is my job. And like this is what they're paying me to do. Like I don't hate going into work. I actually really like my work schedule. The clients have been great. Obviously I know the other staff members there. Like it's just been, my weeks fly by there. Like I work 4 10-hour days and they just fly by, and it's just so cool. And I'm just so grateful to be able to like go in and like spread this message and just like pass along the experiences that I've picked up along the way. And like, I will say that there's some frustration there. No, not a lot, but like, hey guys, like, so I got to go to another funeral tomorrow for another guy that OD'd. And so we've had like 4 deaths in the last like 2 months. I think literally the last time I was on solo wise, I was talking about my buddy Sam that passed away, that OD'd. And like, this is like the nature of the beast, and the treatment center has been open just long enough now to where like you're going to start seeing more and more of that. And like, I wish that wasn't the case. And it's a good example, and it's a powerful example to share with the clients. Like, hey, like if you guys go out there and you guys want to use like hard drugs, like, hey, there's a price that you could pay for just doing it one time. Drinking, while we don't want to be out there, drinking, it's almost like that's the lesser of the evils at this point. Not condoning that either, though. But yeah, it's definitely like, I don't know. And so like, I really wish that like I could like get across to these people that like, hey, like you can do this. And like, trust me, like I'm on the other side of, the initial hard work that recovery is. And like recovery is hard work, but like if you stick with it, you can get it to a point where it's very manageable and you get very set in your routines, and you're further removed from these things, and like it makes it the sobriety like easier to not go back to those old ways. And speaking of sobriety, I just recently hit 90 days from my bottom line behaviors, activities. And like this time around for me, it's been like just the quality has been there. Oh, the quality of the sobriety these last 90 days, 90 plus days, because it's been longer than that, has been something I have not experienced in some time. And there's a couple things I think to accredit it to is, first and foremost, it's like these behaviors. I got really just sick of the behaviors. Like really, really sick of the behaviors. Like they don't work. They don't soothe me the way that they used to be soothing to me. They don't nurture me in the way that I want to be nurtured. Now, check in with me tomorrow, right? Just for today, knock on some wood, God willing. I can keep this streak going. But like I don't even want to look at porn and masturbate. Like I don't even want to do that. And now I am in a relationship, and so that there is healthy sexual experiences going on within this relationship, and we'll get into that here in a little bit. But so that that has helped for sure. That has helped. The job has helped as well. Like just going and getting out of myself and out of my problems and going in and being with these people. Like they do like a morning check-in every day. And someone the other day was like, grateful to be 12 days sober. And that just really hit me, because it was like, oh, wow. Like these people are less than 30 days sober from their drug of choice, their alcohol, whatever it is. Like, and that's a really tough place to be. Like, that's a really tough place to be. And I was reading something somewhere, someone had posted something that was like, some guy was at a meeting and wasn't like real proud of the fact that he had like 4 months sober. And I think that this was from like alcohol or drugs. And then like apparently like in his share, he was like, well, 4 months is a long time to a dead guy. And it was like, that was. So like, we cheer for them when they tell us they're 7 days sober, 15 days sober, 30 days sober. Like we cheer for them, and they deserve to be cheered for that, because that is a big deal. Even if you're in treatment, like, I don't know, someone was like, well, my 30 days that I got in treatment doesn't really count. And it's like, bullshit, it doesn't count. Like, it does count. You could have left treatment at any point in time. Treatment is not a prison, right? Like, we lock the doors from the outside or from the inside, not the outside. Like, you can leave if you want to. You can totally leave. You can wake up one morning and we've had people do that. And so it's like, no, the 30 days that you get in treatment, like it absolutely counts, right? Like it's your running start. You're getting out of a treatment center 30 days clean. Okay, like that's your running start. And we give you the tools that you need to go out and be successful and to continue to grow on that 30 days. But there is still part of me that like just really wants to take some of these people and just go, hey, like I see the other side. I've been where you're at, and it was really hard to get to where I am now. But now I'm looking back at my journey going, wow, Alex, like you have come a long way that I didn't ever think that I was going to make it to. Like, yeah, like I never thought that I would be sitting here today saying, guys, I've got a job doing something that I feel really a lot of purpose and fulfillment in, and I'm working in the treatment center and I'm sharing my experiences. And on top of that, like I'm in a really healthy relationship. Like I would have never, like, I thought that I just to be able to look back on my journey and see where I'm at today, like, yeah, and it's taken me, 3.5 years. Yeah, that's a long time. However, that time has just like really flown by. And again, it's just so cool to look back on where I'm at now and just to be able to see like the pain, right? Like if you go back and listen to my earlier episodes, I was in pain. I was hurting. I was grieving. Like I was lost. depressed, anxious, lonely, like hurt, like I felt so inadequate and just, but like with where I am today, like I have purpose, like, and I have fulfillment, and this is like a gift to the program for sure, 100%, like gift to the program. Like it's just like it was so cool. Like for instance, like the other day I was at work, and our clients do 2 days a week. They do a process group with their therapist where it's like smaller groups. They break up into 3 smaller groups, and they like talk about like more deeper stuff. Like bring to the table what you guys need to process through, and we'll talk about it. And I'm not involved in those. And so like I don't pull clients for one-on-ones during that because I want them to be with their peers while they're doing that. I don't want them to miss anything that their peers have to say or take away an opportunity for them to share in a little deeper, more intimate setting, right? So during that time, we do a full medical detox. So we had a new client come in a couple days before, and me and Ricky, shout out to Ricky, what up, Ricky? We were like, hey, let's go check on the new admit that we got in a couple days ago. Let's go talk to him. So we went over there and we're like, what's up, man? How's it going? And, Ricky and I, like, we bring this energy and we just really play off of each other. And people got to think we're super weird, but it's who I am. And we just get to be ourselves. But we were like, hey, man, what's going on? How you doing? Like, and he was like, man, I'm having some cravings. And he was just laying in bed watching TV. That's kind of part of what detox is just like chilling. And we're like, well, hey, man, like, do you want to go play bags with us? And I was like, let me hit up the nurse and make sure that you're medically cleared to like go play bags. And so I hit the nurse up and she was like, yeah, absolutely he can. And so like we just went out and Ricky and I played bags with this guy for an hour. And like I just got to know him. Like, hey man, what brought you here? First time in treatment. Hey guys, I just want to take a minute to share something deeply personal and transformative in my journey of recovery. I've been where you might be right now, struggling with the weight of addiction and feeling lost. But there is a place that offered me a new beginning, a place I truly believe in. It's called Begin Again Institute. At Begin Again, they understand the deep-rooted trauma behind addiction. Their 14-day intensive program for men tackles the neurobiological aspects of addiction head-on. It's not just about breaking a habit. It's about understanding and healing the underlying trauma that formed it in the first place. And for those who have been impacted by betrayal, Begin Again extends care to partners of addicts too. Their partner support program is offered at no additional cost to the family and runs alongside the men's intensive. This program helps participants gain an understanding of the trauma they've experienced and sets them on their own path to healing. If you or someone you love are grappling with sexual addiction, pornography addiction, or intimacy issues, Begin Again Institute can be that pivotal step towards recovery and a new lease on life. Remember, you can't go back and change the past, but it's never too late to begin again. To learn more about their life-changing program, visit beginagaininstitute.com or call 720-776-9076 to reserve your spot in the next 2-week intensive. I promise, it'll be the best call that you ever make for yourself. Stay strong, keep fighting, and keep tuning in to No Lions Here for more conversations about recovery, resilience, and hope. Like, what were you drinking? How bad was it? Like, what brought you here? Like, just getting to know him. Turned out he liked fishing. So I was like, oh, dude, let's talk about fishing. Like, just getting to know him and just trying to be personable and welcoming with him and let him know, like, hey, man, like, you're not just a number to us. Like, we care about you. And so again, like I got to play bags with this dude for an hour. And what was really cool was like the CEO walked by a couple times and saw us out there. And not once was I ever like, oh shit, I'm in trouble because I'm supposed to be in doing notes or something else. Like, no, like this is part of my job. And like that was really cool. Like that was really, really cool to get to experience that. And then like the last couple days this last week, like I was playing like home run derby with wiffle balls with a couple of the clients. Like it's just really cool what I get to do right now. And like I'm super excited for it. I don't hate going into work. I really like my schedule. I really like the people I work with. Like I've definitely struggled with in my last jobs or even just my jobs in general of that whole like being afraid of authority. thinking that like, oh, management is always out to get me. And they just think they're just trying to catch me up to no good at any given time. And so I always have to look like I'm doing something and staying busy, and like, oh, the boss wants to see me. Oh God, what does the boss want to see me about? Oh shit, let me go through and see where I could have possibly done something wrong, and how am I going to defend myself in this situation, right? And I gotta say, like, I still had that attitude, like, kind of going in. I think that that's something that is always in the back of my head. And that too comes down to like, I'm not good enough. Like, there's definitely that in there too. Like, it's a whole mixed bag of stuff, right? Like, just being traumatized in workplaces, and then also to my own shit around like, I don't feel good enough. I'm not doing enough in my job, and they're gonna find out that I'm a fake and I'm a fraud. And well, it's like, well, I'm not a fake, I'm not a fraud. So like, I meet with my boss once a week, and we sit down and we talk for like 20 to 30 minutes. And when I first started going into these meetings with her, it was kind of like, oh shit, like, maybe better make sure you have all your stuff done. Oh, I didn't get all my stuff done. Like, dang it, like, what excuses am I gonna come up with? Like, and I gotta say, like, getting to know my boss, and it's been really like enjoyable. And like, now I'm to the point where like, she was also like a therapist, and so she's like kind of hard to read. Sometimes therapists can be hard to read. But like, it's just been really cool to like be able to go in there and sit down and be open and know that like, I'm not going to get in trouble. And she's like, Alex, like, because like, I have a caseload of clients, and I'm supposed to see every single one of my clients once a week. Well, it's up to me to try to figure out, okay, where does this fit in on my schedule on top of running groups? Where can I fit these things into my schedule? And she was like, Alex, you're new at this. She was like, this is going to take you some time to figure out. She was like, if you need help trying to plan this, let me know. But if not, like, and I was like, you know what? This is for me to figure out. This is for me to figure, and I like figuring this stuff out. Like, I'm okay with this. And she was like, you're new. She was like, you don't get to see everybody. You don't see everybody. I want you to see everybody, but you're new. She was like, she was a social worker, a therapist. She was like, Alex, it took me 3.5 years to figure out my routine. And so it's been really cool. I don't have to go in there anymore. Like, I was late, I don't know, a week and a half ago or so, and I was like over an hour late. I just overslept. And I remember like driving into work, and she's like messaging me like, hey, where you at? And I'm like, I'm on my way. And I remember thinking in my head, like, as I'm driving, like, all right, what excuse am I going to come up with? Like, I'm just going to come up with an excuse. Like, let me figure this out. And then I was like, no, Alex, like, we're not going to do that. We overslept. We're going to just not make excuses. Just say, hey, I overslept. Take my lumps if I got to take them, right? And she was like, well, I still don't see you yet. Check in with me when you get here. And I'm thinking, great. Shit, I'm in trouble. Like, here we go. And I stopped into her office, and I was like, hey, Alice. And she was just like, hey, if you're going to be late, just let somebody know. We were worried about you. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, no problem at all. And like, that was that. And it was like, okay, that's like, this is cool. Like, not that I'm going to be late every day or anything like that, but like, I don't know. There's to that a whole idea of like, I'm just going to own this on my end, own this. And I think that when I can own things like that, the outcome is going to be different than what I expect. And that it's not so much about the outcome, it's about me just stepping up and owning whatever it is that I need to own. Like, I got to own this. I got to own this, and that's okay. And I can do that. And today, I'm a man of integrity, and that I'm going to own up to my mistakes, not make excuses for them. And also, too, like, give myself grace and compassion. Like, I'm a human being. Like, sometimes we oversleep. Sometimes we do. So, like, that's felt, like, really good. Like, it's felt good to be supported in that way, and to know that, like, okay, like, I'm all right, and, like, I'm doing good enough. And so I just, it's just, like, it's so cool that I get to just go in and be with people and, like, spread the message. Like, I love it. It's great. It's great. I'm really excited. Like, I'm kind of like, the goal is to eventually, have my own coaching business and work for myself and do the podcast. But right now it's kind of like, all right, I'm going to give this a year. I'm going to give it a year with where I'm at and then kind of recalibrate from there and see. And honestly, like I could see things like really changing at the end of that year. I could potentially see that happening. But for now, we're not there yet. So we're just going to take this one day at a time and know that like it's going to work out however it's supposed to work out. And then I'm just going to keep doing my thing there. And so so that's been going really well. And then, the kind of a little bit of a bigger piece. And I think I was talking to Ricky in that last episode, and it was like getting ready she was going to come up. This lovely girl that I'm dating. We're dating. We're together. We're exclusive. We have deleted the dating apps, so it's we're there. We're there. I have shared with her. I think I was like leading up to that, like I was getting ready to share some things with her, around the sex addiction. And so I talked to. It was really cool how this kind of like went down. Like I had some questions, right? Like I wasn't sure, like, all right, how do I disclose this information? And I knew that it was going to be like a 2-prong process. So the first process was like the sex addiction, right? Like, and knowing that like I don't have to vomit everything at once. So the first part of that prong was the sex addiction. Okay, I just got to let you know that, like, hey, this is what I'm really in recovery for. This is why I went to treatment. This is what the podcast is about. Like, here's this part here. And then there's other stuff that also needed to be disclosed, but not in that first meeting. And I talked to Michael White. I had him on. Great guy, great episode. Him and I have been talking a little bit here and there. And I know that he had some experience with this. So one day, I called him. I think it was actually like the day or two before she was supposed to come up and we were going to like have this conversation. And so I talked to him and he said, okay, Alex, like, this is what you should do. Like, be very direct with, hey, these are the points that I want to get across. Whatever it is, 4 or 5, come up with your points. These are the points that I want to get across. Okay. All right. So did that. Set up. Okay, the points. This is what I want to talk about. And one of those points for me is that like I have been unfaithful in previous relationships and that I have betrayed people. And the significance of that is to let her know, like, hey, here's some information that I would like to give to you so that you can make an educated guess on whether or not you want to continue this or not. Like, she needs to have a choice. She needs to have a voice. She needs to have a choice. And also, too, in all of this, this is not an exclamation mark. This is not a period. This is a ... Because these conversations, we're going to continue to have these conversations. This is not a one and done conversation. This is something that's going to be an ongoing conversation. If you have questions that pop up or you ask. Now, I did tell her in that was like, hey, okay, so you have a voice. You are allowed to ask questions. However, there are parts of my story that are really sensitive. And if I'm uncomfortable, I will let you know and we'll like circle back to that. So the day came, she comes up, we had a whole full day planned out. And here I am thinking like, when am I going to do this? I'm afraid to do this at the beginning of the day because then what if she's like, all right, bro, I'm out. See ya. Can't handle this, which could have totally been an outcome. Then it was like, okay, well, if I wait till the end of the date, then maybe she'll feel like I'm holding stuff from her, or like, am I even going to be able to stay present with her the whole day if I wait till the end because it's just going to be in my head spinning around. Like, come, you got to talk about this. So I didn't do it at the beginning part of the day. It was probably about 3 hours into when we were hanging out, and I was just like, hey, like I need to let you know some things. There's parts of me that I'd like to share with you. And so basically it was like, hey, these are really sensitive parts of me. This is what I want you to know. Like, yes, I'm in recovery. And yes, I am in recovery for cocaine. Like, I am a cocaine addict and I don't drink. However, like, I'm mainly in recovery for sex addiction, sexual addiction. I'm a sex addict. I went to treatment for sexual addiction. The podcast is about sexual addiction, and I have been unfaithful in relationships. And then, the whole, hey, like, you can ask questions. And I was met with, how can I support you? I was met with, how can I support you in this? And like, I don't know, I was really taken back by that. It was, and then I just remember I just started crying. And we just like held each other and she held me and I just cried on her shoulder. And I think it was just a combination of like gratitude and then also too just like the weight of everything coming off like leading up to this, because I mean, like, this has been a pretty big thing for me, especially like when it comes to dating, is like, how do you share these parts of myself and expect somebody else to understand, like especially somebody who doesn't deal with addiction, who is not an addict. How are they? Nobody's ever going to understand. And I think that that's a lot of the stuff that fuels our addiction. So to then meet somebody that really does that wants to understand, or knows that, like, hey, okay, like, I've got a past too. We all have past, and it's all about somebody that sees it as, okay, what are you doing about it now? What are you doing about this? I think too there's also that awareness piece of like, oh wow, like this guy's really aware of what he brings to the table and he's doing work around it. So like that was like that was like a big relief. And she was like, so can I listen to the podcast now? And I was like, well, there's more to my story that I would like to tell you before, but this is not yet. And she was very understanding about that, like very understanding. She's been great. She's been great. There's definitely been talks of her coming on. Don't know when that would be or what that would look like. And I'm not really trying to get too far ahead of myself. But she's definitely talked about that. Her and I have talked about that and her being involved. And because what I think is really cool about her is that like our goals really align with each other. Like, she wants to help women, I want to help men, and she's kind of doing that from like a medical side of things, and then also like non-medical stuff too. So like, it's just like, it's really cool that like we both want to help people. We're both like in these occupations too where like we do help people. Obviously it looks different. She had to go to medical school or nursing school to do what she's doing, and I went through a 10-month program and have lived it. So it's but yeah, so that's really cool. So that was awesome, right? And so, however, I knew after that conversation, like, okay, there's gotta be, and in that like that was one of the days where we talked about being exclusive and deleting the dating app together, and like, okay, like, all right, like now we're getting somewhere. Now where things are moving along, the intimacy too, like the emotional intimacy. Like, we've talked a lot on the phone, and cause she lives about an hour and 20 minutes away from me. And so like during the week, like we don't have that convenience of being like, hey, what are you doing tonight? Come on over. Or, hey, let's go grab dinner. Like, so we've made a priority to like talk to each other on the phone a couple nights a week and just continue the conversations and getting to know each other. And that's been really, really good too. It's been a lot of fun to just get to know her and to share these parts of me, and then like, and feel like I'm comfortable in sharing myself with her. Cause like, when you get to know me, like, I am just a big goofy dude that has very big feelings and is very sensitive. And so it's been really cool to just be able to share these parts of me and to be met with the same kind of energy and everything like that. So like, that's been really cool. So I knew, okay, so then I got challenged by my sponsor, Jeff, was like, all right, Alex, like, we have been like getting a little physical, like we hadn't like actually had sex. But he said, okay, Alex, like, this is great. Like, this is great. And I'm really proud of how you're going about this. Next step though, dude, is if before things advance physically, here's the other things that you need to share with her. And he said, Alex, I'm going to be very disappointed in you, and I'm going to chew you out if you advance the physical before you tell her these other things that you need to tell her. And I said, I hear you. I'm totally aware and willing to do that, because I know that is what I want to do. And like my biggest, one of the things that I'm like really proud of in this whole situation is just how open and willing I've been, right? Like it's really easy for me to share who I am or what I've struggled with in meetings, in the treatment center, and like even like one-on-one when I was working at my old job. Like, now it really wasn't like out of the gate. Like I had to kind of get to know people, but it wasn't like all that difficult to share with people. But now I'm finding that like, oh shit, like now when it comes to dating, this is a different ball game. Like peekaboo, whack-a-mole, like this is a different ball game at this point in time, and this shit is scary. I'm afraid to do this because this is somebody that I want to be intimate with. This is somebody that I want that closeness with. This is a relationship or a partnership we're talking about here. And so I was like, okay, all right, here comes the next talk. And we had kind of like talked a little bit about it, in all of our other conversations, like leading up to this. She's like, how can I be there for you? How can I support you? And, we definitely talked about like the importance and the difference between carrying your partner's load and supporting your partner in their load. And that like, I do not need you to carry this for me. I just need support. Just like I'm not going to carry your things for you. I want to support you. Right. Because when we're in these relationships, we oftentimes, like, I know I've done this, is like, I make their problems my problems. And like, and I want to fix their problems. And like, that's not the point of relationships, is to fix the other person's problem. The point of a relationship is to support that person through their problems and not take them on as my own. Now, if there's something that I can do to help, then I will do that. However, the bulk of the work is for the other person. The bulk of the work is for me. My work is my work. Their work is their work. And so like we've had a lot of conversations around that. Like just like, hey, look, like I'm going to bring things up to you, but I want you to know like they're my problem. They're my problem. And so it kind of hit me though, like, because she kept asking me like, how can I support you? And I sent her to, she looked into sexual addiction. She went on her own and found and looked up stuff and read stuff. And like, I even sent her the S-Anon website, which is like Al-Anon, but for sex addiction. It's, family members, friends of sex addicts. And her and I talked about this, and it was like, have you found anything? And she's like, honestly, Alex, like the only stuff that I found is like how to work through the hurt that your partner has caused you. And I was like, no, that makes like total sense. And like I said, I don't know how much that's going to resonate with you or help you, because I haven't brought that hurt into this relationship. Like I have not done anything that would cause hurt. And God help me, and God give me the strength. The plan is to not bring that hurt into this relationship. That's the plan. I don't want to bring these behaviors, and I don't want to bring this hurt into this relationship. So like, there's not really much out there for like, say, a girl or a guy. Hey, I met somebody. They're in recovery for sexual addiction. They seem pretty healthy-ish. And what can I do? Like, there's not really much out there. The really other stuff out there for partners is like, hey, have you been hurt by their sexual addiction? Have you been betrayed by this? And so, yeah, I think that there's kind of like an untapped area for couples that have met either not in recovery, or again, like you meet somebody that's in this type of recovery that's doing well and has kind of got their stuff. They're working on their stuff, and like, okay, how do you be supportive in that type of thing? And I was thinking about it one day, and part of it was like kind of going along the lines of like my problems are my problems is like, hey, and I told her this. I said, hey, you've been asking me like how you can be supportive throughout this process. And one of the ways that you can be supportive is by being secure in yourself. I said, God forbid I act out, even if it is with just porn or masturbation. Like, I want you to know that, one, I can't ever promise that I won't ever act out or use again. That's a promise that I just cannot make. I can promise to work my program to the best of my ability and use my tools. I can't promise you that. I will do that. But I can't promise I'll never act out. If I were to act out in this relationship, I would want you to know that it had nothing to do with you and that there was nothing that you could have done to prevent it. And she was like, oh, okay. I was kind of thinking about that. Like, cause I definitely probably would be thinking like that. And I said, look, there's no human being could relieve me of this addiction. Right. Sometimes partners think that like, oh, if I just would have had more sex with him, or like, okay, let me just have more sex with him. And it's like, and that's the thing with sexual addiction that I don't think that a lot of people in the normal world like understand, is that like sex addiction is not about the sex. It's not about the sex. And that you can give me all the sex that I want and it could still not be enough. Right. I could still go and act out. And so like being secure in who you are and knowing that like, hey, if I were to go act out, like we'll talk about it and, you know, we'll work through it. And like, but like, hey, there's nothing you could have done. One, there's anything that you did to cause this. Two, this is my problem. And three, like there's nothing you could have done to relieve me of this, and that you didn't do anything wrong. This has nothing to do with you in the sense of that you did something wrong. You withheld sex from me or anything like that. Like this is my problem and it's my job to work through it. So that was a really good conversation that we had. And she was very understanding of that. And like, it made a lot of sense to her. And so that was really cool, like to be able to have that conversation with her. And, you know, like I always thought that was going to be kind of a tough conversation to have, like, cause you're sitting here telling somebody that you want to be with, like, hey, I can't promise you that this isn't ever going to happen. Like, because every partner wants to hear, hey, I promise you that this won't happen again. However, like I've made those promises before and I've broken those promises. And like, I don't want to break promises anymore. I don't want to do that. Now, I'm not saying that with the intent to justify, oh, well, I told you I could not, I would never, I told you I won't promise that I won't ever act in it. I don't know. Like, that's not either. Like, I think that if you work a program and you know, like, things pop up and things happen, and that I can work my program to the best of my ability, and I will do that, and I'll continue to do that. And so then like, okay, so this leads us into like the next difficult conversation that I need to have. And that was like, one, telling her about the trauma with my dad and my little brothers, and then how that has turned into an attraction for trans women. And that part of my addiction is trans porn, and that I have been with trans women before. And you want to talk about fucking scared. Whew. Oh my gosh. Terrified to tell her this. Absolutely terrified. And like somebody asked me who wasn't in my program, like, why do you need to tell her that? And I was like, because like this is a part of me that I've carried a lot of shame and guilt around. And, you know, it's a big part of me that I want to keep hidden. If we're being honest, like this isn't something that I've like talked about really on the podcast for a reason. Like there's still some shame there for sure. So, and again, like so we had that conversation and she was like, okay, like, well, where are you at with that now? And it was like, well, you know, we all have these arousal templates. And like, that's something that's always going to be in the arousal template for me. But like, that's not something that I want to keep acting on or doing. And that like, you know, I've done work. Again, there's questions, like if you have questions, I have answers. Or at least I'll try to answer to the best of my ability. And again, I just got met with, how can I be supportive? How can I be supportive of you through this? And thanking me for sharing that with her. And it then like it prompted her to really open up about what she's been through. And I really appreciated that. And I'm not going to go into that because that's her story. I'm not going to go into the details of what she told me. If she wants to share that when she comes on the podcast, she's more than welcome to. But I'm not going to do that for her. That's her story. But it had been kind of things that it's funny, because at one point in time I felt a little frustrated around, and not a whole lot, but there were some thoughts there around here I am, I'm really sharing a lot because I have to, and she's alluding to things like, oh, I don't have a pretty past either, and it wasn't that I was scared of what she was going to tell me. I knew that whatever it was that she was going to tell me, I was going to be able to she wasn't really sharing much. Little bits here and there, but nothing too in depth. And it was kind of I was kind of like, come on, when are you gonna man, I feel like I'm really putting myself out here, and you're just. And now looking back on it too, and having conversations around that, it was look, Alex, this is your life. I belong to a program where I have to be rigorous, honest, and I have to be open about what I'm going through. And I have to, in my circle of people that I interact with on a daily basis, I have to be upfront and honest with what's going on with me, with my past, my job, my program. It benefits me to be this open. And this is something that I've been doing for the last 3.5 years, and that she is not involved in a program. And so she doesn't have to share these things. And so that was able to help me give her some grace and compassion around this, that she hadn't really shared anything. And again, she had shared stuff. That's not what I'm saying, but in that conversation, she then opened up and really told me a lot. And I was really appreciative of that. And at one point in time, we were both just crying in each other's arms. And there was just some real, we ended up having an hour and a half, 2 hour conversation around some of this stuff. And just being there and listening to her and trying to understand, and, knowing that oh, wow, yeah, you've gone through some stuff. You've gone through some heavy stuff. And I'm so sorry that you had to do that. And to also be and to be there to give credit and kudos to hey, you've been through some stuff, and now you're trying to use that to help other people. And I'm really inspired by that, and a lot of respect too. So it was really cool that she shared that with me. And then we got to have that experience and just talking about old relationships too. It just it was really special. It was really special. And I have made the point to really build this relationship on a foundation of emotional intimacy and trust and honesty. That's how I want to base my relationships. Emotional intimacy, trust, and honesty. And her and I have done a really good job of that. And I'm really excited to see where this goes. I really, really care about this person. And I think that we complement each other in a lot of ways. And I met her daughter, and that was really cool. It was really special. Her daughter's really cool. And so I've been spending time with them, and it's just, I'm really blessed. We've been praying together. She's got some spiritual abuse in her background, and we share a lot of same views on religion, and not needing to be a part of religion to have a relationship with God, and God is involved. And of course, there's been these things that have popped up, and I can see them clearly now, and that they're old patterns. Right? Is this really who I'm supposed to be with right now? Is there somebody better out there? And I'm not saying that I believe those or that I'm buying into those, but that's been the pattern for me my entire life. Is, well, okay, this is a good placeholder, but is there something else out there? And to get to see those patterns and to push back on those patterns and be this is just fear talking. Because again, I'm fear motivated, right? Fear runs through me, and fear can really dictate things for me. And so looking at these is like, and like, especially after especially after being so vulnerable with somebody and not knowing how they were going to take it. I was driving down to see her before that last conversation about the dad and, the trans stuff. And I remember like calling my buddy and being like, hey man, like I'm going to go have this conversation. And he said, okay, Alex, like now if she says that like she needs space and that you need to leave, do that and be understanding and do it with grace. And I was like kind of taken back because like that really wasn't in my head. Of course, when he said it, I was like, oh yeah, of course that's a possibility. Yeah, absolutely. But like I wasn't even thinking about that. And I'm really glad that like that didn't happen. Now, if it would have happened, I would have done it. I would have been understanding. I would have tried to be as graceful as I possibly could. And so I'm just really proud of how I've gone about this, and that like it hasn't been too much. I'm not buying into those fears and old patterns, and that like I'm just living really authentically with her and very vulnerable. And like, in the readings, we'll be able to navigate something along the lines of like, we'll be able to navigate situations that used to baffle us. These types of situations used to baffle me. They don't anymore. And like, I'm really grateful for that. Really, really grateful for that. Yeah. So like, I'm excited to like keep you guys in the loop and let you guys know how things are going with her and to see, where this goes. And I'm just like, I'm really happy. Like, I'm very content. I'm very happy with her and just where I'm at in my life. And like, she's really added a solid piece to my life, one of support and partnership. And like, that's what I'm looking for. And so like the work that I've put in over the last 3.5 years, looking back, the time's really flown by, but looking back on it now, it's like I can see where I've grown and I can see where I'm going to continue to grow and to learn and to like just keep taking this thing one day at a time. And like the sky's the limit, honestly, with whatever I want to do. And so like, I'm excited for the future, and I don't feel this need to try to tackle everything right now. Like, just for today, and that like, okay, like, yeah, I got some things I need to do, right? Like I need to move the studio. And I'll be all right with that. That feels a little bit more right size now. Just looking back, like gratitude, right? Like gratitude is the attitude and how it just really gets those wheels turning in the opposite direction. And so looking back, it's like, all right, I'll figure it out. I'm probably not through the fear and feeling overwhelmed and anxious and lonely about it. I'm probably not through that, and that's okay. However, now it's like, okay, this is going to work out how it's supposed to, and I'm going to be all right because of it. And that like on the other side of fear is great reward, right? We just got to keep pushing, keep learning, keep growing, keep looking at everything. Is how can I do better next time? Or how can I be the best me in this situation? And just continue to push. And it's worth it. It's worth it. This thing works. And I'm just happy to say that it works and that I can be a testament to that. And I can be an example of that as well, that like you can get through this no matter where you're at in your recovery in your life. Like you can get through this. It's not going to be easy. However, on the other side of it, it's worth it. And so like, I'm just really excited to see where the future takes me and to see where the future takes this. And I really hope that you guys come along with me on the ride. And I appreciate you guys so much for being with me on my journey, right? Like I'm not alone. I've got so many good people in my life and so many of you good people out there listening. And I just really thank you so much for the love and the support on this journey. Thank you guys. It means a lot to me. Thank you. Thank God too. So on that note, guys, if there's anything else that you'd like to hear me discuss on the show, please feel free to email me, nolions@gmail.com. Again, that is nolions@gmail.com. Definitely go check out the socials. Go like and subscribe. And as always, guys, keep coming back. It works if you work it, and you're worth it. I'll see you guys next time. sweet.